What is your primary message?
Yeah, I mean, I think my primary message is, people need to wake up and see what's going on throughout Western civilization. So it doesn't matter if you're from Canada, the U.S., Western Europe, Australia. I mean, all of Western civilization right now is undergoing a huge moral decay. And at the same time, they're going through huge financial systems. Like for instance, in the United States, the government says they have a $35 trillion shortfall. Everybody knows that number, right? But there's another $50 trillion of debt, or no, there's another $150 trillion of debt that the federal government owes Social Security and Medicare because they've been borrowing since 1980 from those coffers. So when you add those two numbers together, the United States is 185 trillion in debt, and our assets are now lower than our liabilities, and we're the only country in the world that has a negative net worth, but yet we're still spending money like drunken sailors. And so that's going to and the only thing that's keeping everything afloat right now is the petrodollar. So and it's not now, you can't even call it a petrodollar because we've lost that status. And so now it's really because we had the petrodollar status for so long, we have a big reserve currency in all of these countries. So like 65%, a few years ago, 65% of reserve currencies were in US dollars. That was in like 2008. Today it's 53%. And everybody in the world is selling US currencies, and they're basically changing them for gold right now. And it's a slow process because if all these countries all of a sudden sold their all of that U.S. dollars, then it would tank the dollar immediately. But China is actively selling. I think it's about $35 billion a year of their currencies. But pretty much, OPEC has vowed to get out of the dollar completely. Iraq has made it illegal to U.S. dollars are illegal in Iraq. So everybody's trying to de-dollarize, and as these reserve currencies shrink, we're going to go. We already went from 65 to 53, and then we're going to go to 49 to 47 to 40. At some point, it just free falls. So at some point, the rest of the world panics on the dollar, and then everybody's just going to sell it for what they can before it's worthless. But so I don't know. So that's probably my biggest message is wake up. Even if you can fix the moral decay, the drug addiction, even if you can fix those things, there's no way to fix this money issue, this debt issue, and this collapsing dollar. So and I don't know. So I'm trying to warn people that hey, this is what's going on. This is what the data says, and the only thing keeping us afloat is this reserve currency status, which we're obviously losing. So I don't. I mean, so that's probably my biggest message. Other than that, I'm completely unscripted. I never prepare any kind of notes or anything. What I do is I will have topics that I want to talk about, and so a lot of times I'll give those to the guys interviewing me on the stuff we do on a weekly basis. Say, okay, here's some questions that feel free to ask me anything you want, but try to ask me these questions, and then I just answer them. I just nothing is scripted for me. To me, that doesn't seem right. It's awkward for me to do scripted stuff. Like even if I was to type it out myself, it would just be, and I had a teleprompter, it would be very awkward for me to do that. So I just shoot from the hip, and I try to talk about things from a data base perspective. What does the data show? And then talk about what I see. Because like in Mexico, the data tells you that there's a lot of homicides in Mexico and that it's very dangerous. But you live here, and it's not at all what the data suggests. I'm not saying that those homicides don't occur. I'm sure they occur, but they're happening within a very. It's kind of like gang violence in the United States. When gang members are killing gang members, the rest of the population, as long as they're not impacted, they don't really feel insecure. And in Mexico, it's kind of like there's a lot of violence, but it's pretty much cartel on cartel, and or it's somebody doing stupid shit like you would not believe the amount of waiters that I've seen taken out because they sell drugs to the tourist. So the tourist comes in, and the waiter's like, "Oh, I got you." You know, they want some drugs, and the waiter's like, "Oh, I got you." And then usually the cartels will come in and warn them once, and then they keep doing it. And then it's like they don't warn them a second time. So you see a lot of stupid stuff. Um, but like that's why I always say there's two sets of laws in Mexico. You've got the government laws, and you got the cartel laws. And most people know the cartel laws, and you just don't mess with that system.
I've been here almost 10 years in Japan, and I saw the exact same thing and realities. And I use the word reality on purpose. When you're talking about data driven, right? Like, I just don't think people realize, and I don't know yet if it's that they are trapped by the celebrity gossip, if they are trapped mentally through normacy bias, right? Or if they're trapped through narcissism, because America has this weird narcissism where they think if America turns into Mad Max, it's the same thing as the world turning into Mad Max. And I can't think of anything more narcissistic, right, than to think, and if you bring up, right, but look at BRICS. Look how fast BRICS is moving. I think even the people in this realm, in the macroeconomic realm, really knew and been paying attention to this because it's not a new idea, right? But it is accelerating super fast. And obviously the military developments over the last couple years, whether you agree or disagree, is only speeding that process up.
No, that's a good point. I think Iran's manufacturing drones now for the Houthis, and from what I'm understanding, the United States, they've almost taken out an aircraft carrier with their drones. In the United States, the military is having a very tough time defending against these drones. And you're talking from a very small militia group. If they could take out an aircraft carrier, they haven't done that yet, but it looks like they have that possibility to do. Yeah, it's the whole warfare game is changing, and we no longer have the men in the United States to fight a war. So unless so the only thing we can do is have a technological war, and if we continue to lose our edge on that, then we have no advantage at all.
And it's not just the it's not just the men. It's the reality that we won World War II in partnership with another superpower, which I don't need to go into the history of the politics of that. But one thing I always talk about that I love is if you look at the Marvel movies and you look at the original Captain America movie, the history behind that is actually remarkably accurate. Right? So if you think back to that movie, like one of the things that they have him doing when he's first created as a superhero is selling war bonds to the American business owners. Right? And then you find out how many of the B-52 bombers were created by Ford and the American manufacturing. And you kind of put these pieces of the puzzle together and you go, oh, well, other than the partnered superpower, which didn't believe in the bourgeoisie middle class manufacturing, America's power was only done through the willingness of entrepreneurs and business owners to bet on America. Outside of that, it wouldn't have happened. And you're seeing this inevitability, right, in every facet. Whether you're talking about the drugs and you're talking about the markets and the currency wars that have been happening and are currently happening. I just don't think people, when you say wake up, are really paying attention to that. These are inevitabilities. These are realities. We can do a lot of things to start to slow down the ship, the correct things, to get on the right track, for sure. But I said this a couple of days ago, and I think people think I am pro-America. I love America, like a lot. And I love the freedoms America used to quote Dan Carlin, that America used to cherish and the freedoms that we used to have, and all of these different things. But I'm telling America as loud as I can recently, you have a choice and you don't get a third option. You can choose to be this hegemonic superpower of the world, or you can choose your freedoms. You don't get both. And because the math doesn't make sense to get both anymore. There was a time where we could, right? So within this changing environment, this world environment, oh, by the way, there are significantly more US dollars outside of the United States economy than there are inside the United States economy. So what people don't realize is this is exponential, because when those international corporations, which do not care about America, want to flood the US market, whether the government stops printing money or not, right? Inflation doesn't go down, it goes up. And if we're in a rock and a hard place, because if we brought manufacturing back to the United States, that increases velocity, which is nothing more than how fast dollars change hands, which increases inflation. So this is an inevitability. Even if you get America made again, you're going to increase inflation. If you don't, the international multinational corporations are going to flood the US dollar. Like, this is a reality. So,
And even if they make it internally, then the prices are going to be sky high, and the U.S. can't compete with China or Mexico in manufacturing.
what's going on, guys? If you like that clip right there, you will love the full interview. You can check that out right there. I'll see you on the next video. Oh, and subscribe, because we got a lot of big things coming up in the near future.